Before using a harmonizer, make sure your guitar is in tune. If your guitar is out of tune, a harmonizer will have trouble basically tracking the note that you're playing or the scale you're playing, and as a result, the notes that it harmonizes will sound off, and it's not going to sound right. So tune up your guitar, and ideally your guitar will have had its intonation set up by a guitar technician at some point so that the notes are basically in tune from the first fret right up to your 22nd or 24th fret, depending on what type of guitar you have. So once your guitar is in tune, let's have a look at the harmonizer. Now, another thing that you need to know about when you're using a harmonizer is scales, because you set an actual scale that the harmonist will play through. So as an example, if I'm playing through the A minor scale, okay, it's playing from A, B, C, D, E, F, G back to A. So there's no sharps or flats in the A minor scale. So basically when I'm playing the A note, if I've set this to a third harmony, which I have, as I play an A note, the harmonist will then play the third note above in the scale. In this case, it'll be the C note. When I play the B note, the harmonist will then shift the interval to the third note in the scale, which is the D note. As I play the C, it'll shift up 3 notes and play the E, so on and so forth. So let me just mix in some harmonizer and have a listen to the the A minor scale. So that's the dry. I'll move some wet signal in, and generally when I use a harmonizer, I use about 40% wet to around about 60 to 70% dry signal. You don't want your harmony note to overpower the dry signal, so your tonic note should be the dominant sound within the harmony. So here I've got about a 40% mix of the wet signal. And from there you can decide whether you want less harmony or more dry signal. So in this case, I would probably turn the wet signal down a little bit more. So that gives me a fairly natural representation and a natural sounding harmony. So from here I don't have to play it through the actual scale like that. I can play any order of notes. And it tracks reasonably well and allows me to basically harmonize the notes. So adjust your wet and dry accordingly to your preference and know your scale. So basically at the moment I've got this knob set to the C A minor scale. So C is the major and A minor is the relative minor of the C major scale. So basically the notes are the same, but it just depends on your starting point. So the A minor scale starts with the A note, whereas C major still plays through the same notes, but it's starting from the C note. So you apply your scale depending on the chord progression within your song. So that's basically how to use a harmonizer. I can't stress enough how important it is to make sure your guitar is in tune, and if you're not familiar with scales, here's a good opportunity to start having a look at scales and basically being able to harmonize with yourself when you're playing leads. And the last pedal in this chapter is the Digitech Whammy pedal, and the Whammy allows us to modulate pitch in real time using this onboard treadle. So effectively, you've got your dry signal, turn it on, and you can modulate the pitch. So the Whammy is set up with 3 different banks of presets. So on the left-hand side here, you can see a bank that is all harmonies. So on the left-hand side, you've got the harmony intervals for when the pedal is in its fully heel down position, and then on the right, you have the intervals for when it's in its fully toe down position. So as an example, the first one where we're lit at the moment is a second when it's in its heel, to a third up when it's in its toe down position. So you can go through the presets, and for instance the next one is a flat third below, and then to a third when it's in its fully toe down position. And there's varying different parameters up and below your note, right up to an octave below and above. So the harmony presets here are blending an equal mix of my wet and dry signal together so that you can hear the harmony of the notes. Our next bank is detune effects, and you've got a preset for shallow and a preset for deep. So in the shallow mode, you've got, and I'll just go to a clean sound for this one. So similar to the detune that we looked at earlier, except that you can modulate how deep the detune is with the pedal. And then we have a deep setting, which modulates pretty much from where the toe of the shallow setting takes off, right to really drastic detuning. So that's in the heel down position and now toe down. And of course you've got all the settings in between the heel and the toe if you want to adjust it to suit your tastes. So it's a fairly nice detune setting if you want to basically make a clean sound, give it a little bit of a chorusing type effect. As we mentioned, detune kind of works like a chorus, but it doesn't modulate. If you're using dirty sounds, you can end up with a fairly cool kind of 80s hard rock type sound. Probably a little bit too much there. The shallow sounds really nice for a dirty sound. And the last bank of presets is the actual whammy effects. Now, whammy effects basically take out all of the dry signal, so you're only hearing the wet. So I'll go down to the first preset, which is drop tuning. So this basically drops the tuning by a tone. So in the heel down position, it's normal, but as I take the pedal down, you'll hear it drop down by a tone. So it tracks reasonably well. You could play a song without too many artifacts if you wanted to drop your tuning down. It's not something that I would probably use a lot, but for the odd song here and there, in a full band environment, you would probably get away with being able to play a song tuned down like that. The next setting is dive bomb, which basically takes it down from your dry note to a full 2 octaves down. So it's kind of like using the whammy bar to basically do a dive bomb. So if I do that, it's actually doing it. Of course, it's a lot smoother when you're doing it with your foot than when you're trying to do it with your hand. But just for demonstration purposes, I'm using the hand to do it. Our next one is 2 octaves down. Then 1 octave down. Then 1 octave up. So So you'd be familiar with Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine using this effect in Killing in the Name Of. So that's pretty much all there is to the Whammy. The Whammy does also have a MIDI input. So if you do have, say, a digital audio workstation or other effects that you want to control the Whammy via MIDI so that you can change presets, then you can do that via other devices or a MIDI foot controller where you can actually change the presets in real time. But aside from that, it's probably the most accurate at tracking multiple notes. It gives you a little bit more versatility than the polyphonic octave generator in that you can shift the notes in real time. So yeah, Digitech Whammy.